of the Liberty Party, the diaspora chapter of the Liberty Party. We bring you fraternal greetings from the office of the political leader, and I summon you, our friends from the media, to afford you the opportunity to provide courage to the political leader response to the President's 6th annual message. As you know, Article 58 of the Liberian Constitution imposes that responsibility on the presidency, and of course, as opposition political parties, we have an obligation to critique the policies of the government by providing alternative policy objectives. So without much ado, and I encourage you to please put your gadget in place, turn all your devices on silent, as I now invite the political leader of the Liberty Party and Senator of Grand Bassa County, the Honorable Karnga-Lawrence, in response to the President's annual message.
Thank you. Members of the National Executive Committee, distinguished members of the press, fellow Liberians across the length and breadth of Liberia and Liberians in every part of the world, ladies and gentlemen, let me begin by bringing you warm greetings from the partisans and supporters of the Liberty Party across the country and in the diaspora. It is my prayer that the Almighty God will continue to bless our country with peace, unity, and prosperity. I would like to express our heartfelt gratitude to the Liberian people for their continued prayers in ensuring the survival of our nation. I'm also grateful to the Liberia's international partners for their positive involvement in the social, political, and economic development agenda of the country. Amidst the irresponsible handling of the nation and its people and financial and material resources by the Weah administration. In particular, we wish to acknowledge the government and the people of the United States of America, the United Nations system, the European Union, African Union, the Economic Community of West African States, and the Minor River Union for their continued engagement with Liberia in supporting the rule of law and the justice system despite reluctance by the Weah administration to uphold and sustain the rule of law and check and balances. The governments and peoples of China, Japan, Sweden, Germany, and the United Kingdom, Ireland, Norway, and other friendly governments support to Liberia, particularly to the Liberia Reconstruction Trust Fund, for their critical stance in checking gross state abuses in our country. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Article 58 of the 1986 Constitution of Liberia provides an address by the President of Liberia should not be seen as it was seen yesterday as a ritual address that requires the President to catalog what the administration claimed to have accomplished during the previous year, but it should be a reflection of what our people have actually gone through in our country during the previous year. And more so, it should be an address that builds the hope and aspirations of people throughout the country. Distinguished members of the press, in at least intent and aspirations of the people that Liberians have lived with for the last 5 years. Number one, the address reveals the reality of who an honest leader is or is not. And two, it serves as a clear to Liberians regarding what we must do henceforth to prepare our nation into the future by working and entrusting state power with prepared individuals to rescue our country from the state of retrogression that has befallen the nation over the last 5 years. Of average Liberians, many of whom were hopeful that the president who came from poverty and made his way to a better life to the plight of ordinary Liberians to foster better opportunities for them. Unfortunately, the dreams of better opportunities for Liberians have been replaced with the harsh reality of failed promises that are repeatedly made at public forums. Fellow Liberians at the Liberian legislature. One is service delivery. The primary responsibility of government is to ensure that the citizens access the minimum quality of public services that enhance their dignity, expand opportunities, and improve their standards of living. Accountable governments and responsible leaders around the world often focus on continuously improving the quality of public services, especially in education, health, water, and sanitation. It is regrettable that the President, since his ascendancy, has paid very little attention to appraise the nation on the state of. Yet, our people are suffering because of public service delivery system that has virtually broken down. It is painful talking about the health sector of this country. The state of our health care is in peril. We continue to see a system and another hospital in Babulu County built by the United Arab Emirates. While the construction of the two hospitals is laudable, it is equally important that the true state of the healthcare system was told by our president. Today, it is an open secret that hospitals and clinics across the country have no drugs, no electricity, no fuel for ambulances, no beds to cater to patients willing to deploy in the interior and undeserved areas due to lack of social amenities, which among others include electricity, pipe-borne water, housing, and better roads, while low salaries and lack of insight, all the public hospitals remain non-functional with a consistent shortchange in their budgetary allotments. Despite pleas from some of us in the Senate to increase the budgetary allotment for healthcare, the majority vote in the legislature continuously overweights our stance, while the insufficient amounts approved for operations are always delayed or never forthcoming. This is unacceptable. As we review the new health policy before the legislature, we will champion an affordable drug revolving costs at public hospitals to eliminate the high payment of fees by patients to purchase their own materials and drugs before they are treated, to always have drugs available, and stop the payment of high illegal fees that are not accounted for. We also follow a recent case where a mother and her baby died because they were turned away for lack of money. This is one of many similar cases. The new health includes service delivery before pay. No one should be turned away from any hospital because of no money. In education, the regular payment of WAEC and WAES fees for students in 9th and 12th grades are indicated in the President's address is commendable. Education and the universities, the economy. We also acknowledge the progress of the government regarding efforts to decentralize tax administration, beginning with the real estate tax on 50/50 tax revenue, starting with the local government administration. This tax reform measure, if administered and managed efficiently, proper diagnosis of the health of our economy will highlight the following environments and unemployment. Inflation and high unemployment continue to hurt Liberians. Many of our citizens cannot afford their basic needs, either because they have no jobs or because the little they earn cannot sustain their needs. After 5 years of failed promises, the situation as pronounced by the President is on the reverse. No one living in Liberia will not understand that prices on the market remain very high, quite affordable by the average Liberian citizens, most of whom do not have any source of livelihood. To be a reduction in inflation is basically attributable to the intervention of the IMF. In specific cases, the IMF has been bailing out Liberia since 2019 with loans because of the terrible state of the economy. For example, in 2020, Liberia received before you assumed the presidency, domestic and international debts stood at $900 million, after Madam Salif 12 years. However, just within 5 years of your administration, Liberia has accrued a total debt burden of $835 million in domestic debt and 1.5 years of previous regime, and it is now under your administration. Corruption and patronage. Upon the nightmares of our economy is the issue of corruption and patronage, which have become a cancer in the Liberian society because of the government's blind eye on corruption and misuse of public funds. This is the most poisonous venom in our country, yet this government has yet to investigate allegations of corruption in the fight against corruption. Flows. The government is strengthening and empowering the Liberian Anti-Corruption Commission to prevent fraud and acts of corruption before they occur. We will spare no effort to bring Liberia within international compliance in the fight against corruption and illicit financial flows. Quote, incidents of the government continues to swim deeper into the ocean of corruption. Fellow Liberians, be not deceived, because those who steal public funds and public assets are stealing from Liberian taxpayers who must endure surviving in a hostile. They are stealing the future of our country. Other report about the $13 million that were allotted in the budget to stabilize the price of rice. To date, the government has provided no explanation regarding the $13 million. We are also interested in the President instituting an audit of the sanction of the Senate to establish proof of this. The only list presented by the executive branch entailed $25 million for government's failed MAPA exercise that showed transaction of exchange with few street money exchangers who did not exist or have not been found. Because such by projecting the positive impacts of the LPA scheme. The reality check is that the government has failed to meet up with its LPA obligation to business, the intended purpose of the policy. An available example is the era cooperation in cases, thereby allowing rapists to go about their lives with impunity. We recommend support to the Ministry of Gender, Children, and Social Protection, the Women and Children Protection Unit at the Liberian National Police. We call for national security, justice, and the rule of law are indispensable to the building of culture, and by extension, a guarantor for increased sub-regional and international cooperation. A country like Liberia that is still in transition from a lawless state to re-entry amongst the community of civilized nations must be deliberate about how it handles these matters. Our international partners receive any closure on series of investigations launched by this administration into the depths of some of our compatriots. We recall the investigation launched more than 2 years ago into the deaths of our auditors, whose deaths came in a mind-wrenching sequence. The obscure investigation commissioned the death of influence on the legislature. Nevertheless, the latest security strategy in the wisdom of the president, which is as now saying, and I quote, all citizens must purchase and own CCTV and be your own security, unquote. Interestingly, Weah has failed to realize or consider CCTV does not work without electricity. Oblivion of the fact that most of the citizens do not have electricity and cannot afford CCTV. Alongside national security, country's justice and rule of law agenda, this government, in the case of the Liberia Extractive Industries Transparency Initiatives, among others, are but a few of the miscarriages that are worth mentioning. In its report on strengthening the rule of law in Liberia, justice and security for the Liberian people, formal justice system, which is 69%, as compared to the formal justice system, which is 31%. Considered from the angle of justice law as essential elements for the attraction of investors, Liberians should understand why the country's foreign direct investment profile is so poor under the Weah administration. It is also important to emphasize the government's continued silence on the recent purported discovery of several reported by the Front Page Africa newspaper that on the day of the SONA, a huge quantity of drugs was arrested. Why did he intentionally leave this issue out of his SONA? Is it not a matter of national security concern? Who are the people involved, and is Liberia becoming a transit point for drugs? The president's silence on the issue of drugs is more worrisome than programs to solve this problem. The president spoke of millions of dollars that were raised to tackle this situation, but it is so disappointing that with no program, the disadvantaged youth who are in the streets looking for money for more drugs, and the Commission on Disability by the President's protocol and the head of the Commission of Disability. With the political will to rescue this youthful population, our disadvantaged champion the budgetary support in the legislature. We again call on the Weah government to prioritize the safety and security of our youth and youth development through a national plan that will be supported by the national budget and external supports. Roads. The president informed us in the SONA that the road from Harper to River G was paved by his administration. This is misleading because it was paved by the Union Party government. This Weah government has not paved any roads in the southeastern part of Liberia. The Broad Street to Ganta Road, Lofa Road, Sonic-Willow Road, and Basel Road were all projects of the past Unity Party government. President Weah, before his elections, formed a part of the delegation to the groundbreaking ceremonies for some of these roads projects, including the Lofa Road. The Weah government has benefited from projects initiated by previous administration, whereas the president fell short of mentioning investment attracted to the country so far by his administration. Increase in domestic revenue. Fellow Liberians, rising domestic revenue must have a reflection in the provision of basic social services. The president articulates in his SONA that more than ever in the history of Liberia, his administration was able to raise in 2022 $740 million in domestic revenue, as over $646 million in 2021. The side commentary is, however, that the distribution of the revenues are across ministries and agencies in their application to critical areas of needs leaves much to be desired. At most, these allocations usually end up not being applied to benefit projects for which they are set aside. And tracking mechanism, basically the budget performance reports, are never forthcoming amidst the saturation of partisan interests that overshadow the national interests. Further to this, the president of Liberia is the recipient of more than $10 million in the budget for county tour. In his 2022 address to the legislature, the president praised the House of Representatives for approving $10 million for the presidential tour. He indicated that several projects were earmarked across the country out of that amount. Where is the report to show where those projects are and their status? This is a matter of serious concern, considering that even in the face of the increase in domestic revenue, his administration has not been able to disburse to the counties their deserved share of social and county development funds and operational allotments. Against this backdrop, we will make representation to our colleagues to put a freeze on the disbursement of the additional money representing allocation for presidential county tour until funds intended for social development are fully disbursed to the concerned counties. Commitment to ensuring the conduct of free and fair elections. The Liberia Party takes keen interest in the president's pronounced commitment to conducting free and fair elections and accepting the results. We commend the president on this declaration, for we know that come October 2023, he will be defeated, and by then he will be tested by his commitment to accept the results and give way to a smooth one-term transition. It is also noteworthy that the president challenged political leaders not to militarize the youthful population of the country to their political advantage. The president will certainly do well to redirect his statement to the political institution that he heads. Yes. It is no secret that President Weah's political party has, since its ascendancy, found it difficult to transition itself from something of a radical political movement to to a national political party. We are reminded of the constant attacks on students on the main campus of the University of Liberia defended facility by groups operating under the banner of the CDC. So yes, Mr. President, we will continue to direct the youthful organizations within our institutions to do the right things. You equally have a responsibility to continue yours, not to militarize the political process. Promise to increase salaries for about 15,000 civil servants. Mr. President, we know that this is electioneering time, and you will play the card of deception to lure unsuspecting civil servants into believing that you care for them. After all, where did you meet the salary structure upon becoming president? Wasn't it your ill-advised harmonization exercise that brought about the reduction in salary? We are not averse to stepping up the salaries of civil servants, but such effort must be depoliticized. To stretch the point further, we would like to take you back to your campaign promise of creating 1 million jobs. After 5 years and close to 6 years to the end of your administration, where are we with the creation of the 1 million jobs? This is yet another of your failed promises and cannot be redeemed on the backs of 15,000 civil servants. Mr. President, your mention of $6 million to raise the salary of some 15,000 civil servants is unrealistic. We see this as one of your usual attempts to put the people against the legislature, as $6 million is insignificant to raise the salary of 15,000 civil servants. While we support salary increment for civil servants, same must be done across the board with classification and grading to avoid disincentive for employees at different levels of qualifications. To jointly achieve this, we request a financial analysis to include a back breakdown and total amount from the President for onward approval by the legislature in the 2023 national budget. I read that again. To jointly achieve this plan, we request a financial analysis to include a breakdown and total amount from the President for onward approval by the legislature in the 2023 national budget. If the President can present a plan to increase the salaries of 15,000 civil servants, including deserving civil servants who also need to be looked at, the legislature will approve that plan in this budget. Yeah. In conclusion, Liberty Party has long been a party offering solutions to the many issues facing our country. The founding father, Councilor Charles Walker Bronsky, spoke in details about the role to economic recovery and made every effort to get the nation there. As political leader of this party, I have spent a lot of time thinking about the problems of this nation and speaking with experts about possible solutions. As the only female senator for a long period, I have also raised my voice in the Senate on the issue of healthcare, justice, and good governance, only to be ignored by our government. My fellow Liberians, let's change our thinking so we can change our decisions. Let's change how we make decisions so we can change the direction of our country. Let's not keep the wrong people in office thinking things will change. When you remove people from office, you set an example for the next leader that he or she will also be removed from office if he or she fails to deliver. This is the power of the people that will force leaders to deliver. May God bless you, and may He bless the Republic of Liberia. Thank you for your time.
People they can lean on my Karnga Senator of Grand Basso County.